We went to court one morning, not expecting any kind of transition or move to happen, and the judge ordered our kids to be moved right away. And so, of course, my first question was, well, can we at least wait till after school? This was like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And we were told, no, you need to pick up the kids immediately from school, and we're going to go ahead and make that move. So, first I want you to remember, think about the trauma these kids have already experienced. They've already had loss in their lives. And in our home, I always try to let the kids know in the morning, listen, today's going to be a different day. You're not going to go to school all day. You have a doctor's appointment at 1 o'clock. I'm going to be picking you up at 12. We do this with every single child because of the experiences they've already had in their home. This day I wasn't going to be able to do that. I go to the school, and I won't forget the day that I see the children coming down the hallway with their friends. And of course the oldest says, why are you picking me up today? Why are you picking me up today? And of course I paused for a minute, and I'm like, what do I say to her? And I said, I'm actually taking you home today. And in the middle of the hallway, she starts screaming and crying. By the way, this was to a relative. In fact, I had told her, you're going with your grandparents today. Her little brother was next to her coming out of the side hallway with another friend, and he starts crying because she starts crying. The emotional impact was obviously the trauma, the crying, the not understanding why her life was being turned upside down again. Okay. So then we rush home because our house is actually a mile away from the courthouse. So of course we're rushing home. The two kids are crying in the back seat, and we're rushing around our house to try to get all their clothes and everything packed, not taking the time to sit down and talk to them about what this transition was, where they were going, why it was important, why it should be a good thing. Instead, we're worrying about packing. Our daughter was also at school that day. She didn't get to say goodbye. How many foster parents do you think would stick around for that? Today, actually, I was dropping her off. She's in middle school now. This was a couple years ago, and I asked her what that transition was like for her. And she said, I didn't get to say goodbye. So I want you guys to think about that. How many foster parents would be willing to stick around when the kids in their home are affected? Not just us, because we're the adults, but the kids.
In my first few years of fostering, that's all I took were either infants or newborns. And in particular, when I had this girl who came in at 6 months, I had her for a year. She had other siblings in the system who I maintained visitations with. When she was 18 months, I got the news that a family member had come into the picture, which was great. I mean, I was happy that there were people that were part of her family who wanted to see her, who wanted to meet her, that were from out of state. They made arrangements to travel, which I thought was great. I made a whole album with the pictures from her birthday that we had just had a few months prior to give it to them. I gave them my phone number. I try to, keep a communication over the phone so the girl can get to know them, so I could introduce them, and knowing that the outcome could be that she could possibly be placed there. In the process, somewhere along the process, in court, it was decided that she was going to be going to a visit out of state with people she had never met, with people she had never seen, with people that she had no knowledge of, because she was 18 months. It doesn't matter how much I try to tell her, she was 18 months. I was pretty much told tomorrow she's going to Virginia, and that was the end of the case. I asked, can I take her? Can we go? How does that work? It was pretty much, we'll pick her up at 11. Have her ready and we'll pick her up at 11. I said, for how long? And I said, well, it's going to be an extended visit, so it's going to be a month. After a month, we'll bring her back. Anybody that has children knows that at 18 months of age, they're very attached. They usually don't like strangers. They are clingy to mom. They don't talk. They barely know how to walk and get around. They don't have communication. They don't have the understanding that a 12-year-old would, if anything. That morning, I cried as I got her ready. I had packed a little luggage with enough clothing for what I thought maybe 2 weeks, where so they had diapers. Some of her, snacks and things that she liked, her teddy bear, her blanket. But I didn't send everything because I was told she was coming back in a month. I was told it was a visit and they wanted her to meet them and spend some time with them, and there was no better way of doing it but to send her off for a visit. I had to try to prepare the best I could my children to know that she was going to be gone for a little bit. 5 years later, that little bit never ended. I never even got the courtesy of getting a phone call back to let me know that she was not coming back. For months, I tried to inquire, and I was told I was not privileged to the information because I was no longer part of the case plan. I still had things that belonged to her: shoes, clothing, toys. My children asked consistently, when is she coming? When is she, I had no answer because I really didn't have an answer. When she was picked up that day, the caseworker who saw her once a month picked her up. And although she could not completely comprehend what was happening, she was very anxious. She cried from the time that I left, that I opened the door and the caseworker picked her up all the way till she got in the car. All she kept saying was "mommy" and kept going like this. I'll never get that out of my head. It took over a year for me to take another placement because I could not get over the lack of communication, the lack of caring, the lack of planning, the lack of people's understanding that these are not toys, that children are people, that we are people, that it doesn't just affect that one child. I had another 4 children in my house that I had to explain this to without having an explanation for. I have to say that was probably one of the worst. And she might never have been able to express what she felt, but I can only imagine that she had no clue either. So to say the least, that it's trying to put ourselves in their shoes and trying to think of what they would feel when this happens and what that looks like and who gets impacted by those changes.
Well, I've been in care for a long time. Well, I was in care for a long time. And to start off, as a younger child, I was starved a lot. And well, that goes into my story. I remember this one home. I had just stolen some food because I was hungry, and the foster parents, they found out or whatever. So I was so they told me I had to leave or whatever. So this was a fast process too, and it was just like it was just after Christmas too, because I remember because I got this train set. All these other toys, Pokemon was it was real cool. I just got me some cards where I thought they're all school was. So so they told me I had to leave. So I was at school, and my caseworker, it was this guy named Jason. I remember him. He was like, yeah, I'm coming to pick you up, and like I knew I was leaving. I was already prepared for it, like mentally, because I've been in the system for so long, and so I was at school. And I was waiting for him, it took an hour. And then I got in his car and I was like, are we gonna get my Christmas gifts and stuff? And he was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna drop you off at your home and you gonna get your gifts and stuff. Man, he was lying. I ain't never get those gifts, and it hurt because I was real popular. This is elementary school. I was real popular, I had a lot of friends and stuff, and I had to leave. It sucked, because not because of friends, because friends come and go, that's my mentality, but because of Christmas gifts. I ain't never get those Christmas gifts. Why? Because I had just got that train set, and it was like real expensive train set. It was real cool, but I ain't never get those gifts, and that sucked.
My worst situation was with a 3.5-year-old little boy. I was his 4th placement when he came to my house. This little boy did not trust. He was considered depressed at 3.5, if you can believe that. Adults were not safe to him. I met him in a children's shelter. He bit the workers, caused nerve damage. After having him for a very long time, I was able to get this little guy to trust me. And when I would pick him up from daycare, they said, if you are 15 minutes late, this little man is sitting there at the gates going, where's my Anna? Where's my Anna? He eventually went home to his parents, and believe it or not, they got the benefit of transition. Whether they were using me as a free babysitter or not, I have no idea. But I had him every other weekend, as if we were divorced parents. I watched him while he moved and things like that. And when I pick him up, he'd say, Anna, I've been calling you. How come you haven't come? How come you haven't come? And I'd always tell him, sweetheart, even if I can't see you, I will always, always love you. And I'd make it clear that I'm not forever. Well, unfortunately, Mom and Dad could not keep it together, and he ended up back in my home. So now they had to find a permanent situation for him. They found an aunt and an uncle who had cousins. Turns out he had 4 sisters he did not even know about. Grandma lived down the street. So without a doubt, that is where he needed to be. When I found out he was going to aunt and uncle, I tried to get as much information as possible. They said they have a dog. He was petrified of dogs. So I took him to the pet store, and I had him playing with puppies, so I could get him used to the dogs. And then I said, well, can I drive up, because they lived in another part of the state, can I drive up, meet them, get him used to them? No, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. Well, one day he was at a visit with his dad, and I was called, and they said, he's not coming home. You need to pack up all of his stuff, and you need to drive out here and say goodbye to him. And so my daughter, who was a teenager at the time, we got in the car, we packed up like crazy people. We loaded up the car with every comfort item we can think about, and we were so frantic we forgot his nebulizer, the most important thing. And we drove out there, cried the whole way, got there, put our game face on, and loved and kissed on him, and told him, even if I can't see you, I'll always love you. You're going to see your family. And just turn this into a positive thing. We even caught a lizard in the office. That was one of his favorite things to do, so we sent him off with a lizard, which was great. So anyway, I grieved for 6 months like it was the death of a child. Not because he was leaving, but because of the way he left. I worked so hard to get this little guy to trust me, to trust adults, and then just like that, he was moved to strangers. He needed to be with them, but is that the way you want to introduce him and set him up for success? I was going to quit fostering, and I didn't take a child for 6 months. And then one day, my daughter said, Mom, we got to keep doing this. And I got back in the game. But I didn't sign up for this to damage children. And I felt like that's what we did to this little guy. After showing him that Anna is going to be here, Anna's going to be here, Anna disappeared from his life. That has been 6 years ago. He left my house at 4.5. He's now, well, I guess he's 9.5. And I wonder, does he think I am one more person that gave up on him?
The child that's living in our home now, KK, who was her last foster child, that is our first child. My wife and I did not want to go through the foster process because we knew that it would be too hard for us, so we went straight for adoption. So we haven't experienced that, but I can tell you about a lot of the experiences that KK has had. Take your pick as far as bad transitions. When she was 11 years old, on her birthday, she was moved. I mean, imagine that. You're getting ready for your birthday, and that's the day that you're moved to a different home. She also had a failed adoption. Just imagine all of the bad transition moments. The family that adopted them, that adopted her, couldn't fix her. So they hired their own lawyer, their own adoption agency, and they tried to place her somewhere else. They flew her to Ohio, dropped her off with a family in Ohio, and after 6 months, that family gave up on her and put her back on a plane back to Orlando. After she went back into the system, she went to 4 different homes before she finally, thankfully, ended up in Anna's home. And that has been probably the best thing that could have happened to her.
A good transition that we had was one that was well prepared. We knew probably about 3 weeks out it was going to happen the last day of school. We were able to connect with the biological parents and talk with them on the phone, discuss, things that the kids have been doing recently, their likes, dislikes that they have now. And we were able to, he was able to build trust more with the family because he had been let down quite a few times. So it was nice to be able to see him be able to adjust to the trust factor with his family, and being able to, he didn't have to lose the connection that he had built with us or with the children in our home. We were able to continue a relationship with that family that went on and on and on. So I think a positive transition can be made if there's communication, there's preparation, and building the trust with the kids.
I was in a group home. I was 17. I remember it was in October because I was just gonna turn 18. Had 2 weeks left, and my auntie, I call her my auntie, but she was pretty much the supervisor in my case. We were real close because we've been together for so long. And she was like, there's this home, whatever. And I had a friend that stayed with them because they had adopted one of my friends. She was real cool. She, I went to my friend's birthday party. We just hit it off because they have a big family. It was a family of 8. Eight, and it was just real cool. And since then, we just hit it off, and then we got the process done. Because I had people, that just knew what they was doing. So we got the process done. I got the 2 weeks, and then when did I get adopted? I got adopted on the 3rd of November. And since then I've been happy. They actually encouraged me to get back into school because I was real far behind. I was down 9 credits last year, and I didn't think I was gonna make it. I wanted to get my GED or whatever. They encouraged me, and I got my high school diploma. All A's and B's. I'm in college now, and that's pretty much, this is my best transition that I've gotten to so far.
Like he said, we know of 11 placements. We really think it's more considering what she'd been through with her biological family. When she moved in with me, when she was returned to care after being adopted, I was her 4th placement in 2 months. The consistent message for 6 months had to be everybody on the team was, because she told me, she walked in, I'm just testing you out. I'm going to let you know if I'm going to stay or not. Our wonderful recruiter found Roberto and his wife, and I can't tell you how much these people are her parents. We couldn't introduce them as potential adoptive parents. We said they are mentors for you to give you a break from Anna, because then Anna gets on your nerves. So she's like, heck yes. So our first meeting, I think
we planned it for like a week.
Oh yeah.
It was back and forth. What would she like? What will she, in what situation will she feel comfortable? So we decided to go to the mud walk in Seminole County, and it was Anna, KK, her 2 nephews, 2 of her friends, Jennifer, the caseworker, Jennifer's husband, and then Becky and me. All those people came together to make sure that she had a good first meeting with us. The first time that she stayed with us, there was also a big transition, emails back and forth. I work for Disney, so I had tickets for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. We planned to just take her and then take her back to Anna's, but we were hoping that she would stay with us. An hour before we were going to leave, her brother called. He at the time was 20, KK was 12, and it was like a surprise, okay, her brother is coming. But that was good because she was not going to be by herself, so it was a great experience. After that weekend, she stayed with us every single weekend, including Thanksgiving and the Christmas holidays until February. That as a team, again, it was about 5 or 6 people, we decided that it was time for her to move in with us
They came to my house and we told her together.
on a Wednesday.
He knows all the details. And,
February
and
2nd.
she was not happy about it. And she looked at me and said, Anna, you are giving up on me. You're giving up on me. And I said, sweetheart, no, I'm not. All I can do is give you time. These wonderful people decided not to take her out of the school that she was going to when she was living with me. I live in Oviedo, for those of you familiar with Central Florida. They live by SeaWorld. Was that in?
Right down here, about 10 minutes away.
So it was like an hour drive to my house. So we moved her to their house. They would drive her to my house every morning. She'd take the bus, go to school, come home. Once in a while I'd drive him home, but I'm not going to take any credit because it was all him.
Almost her entire life that she had in Oviedo, we've been able to maintain that her best friends, her sleepovers and parties and all that. So I don't know. And we're still transitioning now. I mean, 3 weeks ago, she still had things at Anna's, and she was going to stay at Anna's for a sleepover with her friend. And we were afraid that by moving the last 2 or 3 boxes would be kind of bad for her or traumatic. No, I moved the stuff out to the trunk. Yes, and she kind of noticed that I had stuff, and she's like, well, what is that? I said, well, the last things that you had. He said, oh, okay, cool. And that was it. That was a successful transition.
This took a lot of work on our part. Every night we were pretty much either talking on Facebook or texting.
Our record was probably 3 hours when she was having a really bad moment with Anna, and Kayla was in and out of her room, and she was just texting me on Facebook, telling me everything that was happening, and I was being a support for her. So it was back and forth the support.
And I think a lot of it, one, it was helping me parent a traumatized child, a very, very challenging child. They were my support. Also, it helped prepare them for these challenging behaviors. They knew what they were getting. The other thing is, we are so fortunate for the team that we had. The case managers would help us out whenever it became too much. Our guardian ad litem, we call her Grandma because she gets on the phone. She's been with KK since day one. And for somebody to say, oh, it creates too much work, if we're truly in this for our kids, it is worth the work.